Fentanyl. The word is becoming familiar, but too many of us still don't grasp the reality.
Spokane man will spend 20 years in prison for supplying drug dealers with fentanyl in eastern Washington.
A huge drug seizure in Orange County. The sheriff there says they found so much fentanyl that it was enough to overdose every person in Orange County. And authorities say the problem's getting worse. KCAL 9 Orange County reporter Stacey Butler.
My name's Carlos, I'm 38, and I'm from Puerto Rico.
And when did you get to San Diego?
When I was 5 years old.
5 years old. What was your childhood like growing up?
It was pretty hectic, man. You know, my mom had the three of us, and, you know, she was by herself, working sometimes 2 jobs at a time. So it was kind of just us alone, and no father figure. Nobody kind of teaches us how to be men, you know? And the baby daddies and boyfriends that she had were, from what I saw, were like abusive and alcoholics or drug addicts or whatever. And extremely difficult now that I'm thinking about it, like all the abuse that we went through. You know, my mom didn't know no better either. You know, she was also an alcoholic. And, you know, there was a lot of physical abuse and mental abuse.
Do you still have a relationship with your mom?
I don't. You know, she passed away last year, and, you know, we weren't on good terms mainly because of me, you know, because of the way I am, and I couldn't forgive, you know. And she treated me like a king. Once I became an adult, she treated me so different, you know, and still kind of regret that I wasn't able to see her whenever she passed, you know. I was kind of doing my own thing, you know, drinking and partying, and yeah, it's still, but I'm just super happy because I know she's like looking down at me and what I'm doing now, and is like super proud of me. You know, like I found out that I was gonna have a son, like literally like 2 or 3 days after she passed away. Like I put the sonogram thing, you know, the picture thing. I put it in her casket, and it was like, Mom, you're gonna be I'm gonna have a kid. And it was like, yeah, it was cool.
So what age did you start getting in trouble?
I would say probably like around 8 years old, maybe. Yeah, just like normal, you know, addict stuff, you know, smoking cigarettes at first, and you know, there was an incident that happened when I was young that I felt like that kind of turned me, you know, bad, basically, you know, turned me to where I was like spiteful of everybody, hated everybody, you know. Somebody in our family was, you know, sexually molesting kids, you know, my cousins and me and his siblings, stuff like that. And, you know, I've never talked about this like the way I'm talking about it now, but I just remember just hating everybody, you know, and hating myself, and couldn't tell anybody because I thought I would be the one who's getting in trouble, you know, because I used to be punished for things, you know, physically. And so I'm like, if I say anything, I'm gonna be the one who's gonna get in trouble, you know. So, you know, it gives me a perspective on like why people don't speak out about stuff like that, you know, because they feel like it's their fault, or they're gonna get in trouble, or nobody's gonna believe them. And so after that happened, you know, I was smoking cigarettes and like stealing my uncle's beers, stuff like that, and finding like roaches, you know, in ashtrays, like weed roaches, and smoking those. Stealing meds, you know, out of whoever's house I was at, you know, stealing. I was stealing a lot. I was a little thief, you know, stealing from church, stealing the little tray that they pass around, you know. I'd always steal money out of there. And yeah.
So when When was the first time you got in trouble? Was it when you were a juvenile?
Like, what do you mean, like with the law or?
Yeah.
Probably when I was 16, I think, stealing a car.
Did you get busted for it?
Yeah, and my uncle had come like basically bail me out, you know, bail me out of the whole situation. And my mom was, at that point in time, my mom was pretty much over me. You know, I was kind of living in the streets and staying at homies' houses and stuff like that.
When did when did you notice your addiction transform from like, kind of like being fun to like being an issue?
Um, Maybe being an issue. Okay, let me see. I think it's when I started using like opiates. You know, because most of the other drugs I'd done to that point, I could just stop doing them and go on to the next drug, you know, or go back to drinking or just smoke weed. When I started messing around with opiates, like, it became a problem because when I didn't have it, you know, I'd do anything to fucking get it.
So are you talking about when you started doing heroin, or were you doing oxys that led up to heroin? What was that?
Well,
What was that journey like?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy because I'd done, you know, a lot of different drugs besides meth, heroin, and cocaine, I believe. But I'd done a lot of the other like hallucinogen type drugs, you know, ecstasy, stuff like that, party drugs. And then I freaking met you. And I think you guys came up to my house to like buy weed or something. And then we were hanging out. I believe we went to a cancer patient's house or something. And, you know, I'm sure somebody had heroin already on them, but we went there and we bought fentanyl patches, morphine pops, and those the blue 80s. And so my first time getting high on opiates, I did all four of those. And I remember we were at the taco shop and I was just violently throwing up, probably ODing, you know, and hanging out with you guys. And about a week later, we caught up again at the casino, and I was like sick, and I didn't know why. And I remember saying something like, "Dude, I'm so fucking sick, dude. Like I feel cold, and like I'm shaking. My legs won't stop shaking." And you were like, "Damn, you're already freaking withdrawing." I'm like, "Bro, I've been using oxys like every day this whole past week, you know." And now I didn't realize that that's what happened, you know. I always told myself I'd never use heroin, not realize I'm literally using heroin, but in oxy form, you know. And
That's crazy. So, I mean, obviously, for the people who are listening, you know, I met Droopy or Carlos. I met Carlos back in the day, and I had no idea that that was the beginning of your opiate addiction.
yeah,
I mean, to be completely honest, I never gave a fuck back then.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's just the name of the game with the addiction.
yeah, 100%.
So you were hustling a lot back then. So tell us a little bit about like your little get down of like.
Yeah, man. You know, growing up in East County, not having a father figure, and I kind of looked up to like the dope dealers in the neighborhood, you know, and you know they'd have lowriders or you know nice Suburbans, and they'd always have like the baddies on their arm, have money, but they just seemed to never work. You know, they were just always home all day, and you know the neighborhood dope dealer. I remember ditching school, and I was in my room, and I seen cops coming from both sides of the street to basically nab him, you know, and I seen him stash his fucking stuff like in the grass. Like he pulled up a little patch of grass and threw it in there. They busted him, and I saw that, so I went down there and grabbed that stuff, and it was like a pretty big bag of meth and a little gun. And I grabbed that, and I'm like probably like 12 years old at the time, and started selling it. I didn't know anything about meth. I didn't know prices or anything, so I was probably hooking people up, you know, and I'm like cruising around with the little freaking 38. Like I actually got it tattooed right here. That was the first little gun I had. I'm thinking I'm cool and I'm selling, and one of my older cousins was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" He was trying to take the bag from me. I'm like, "Nah, fuck, I'm selling, dude. Like, you want some? Like, I'll sell you some. Like, I'll buy the rest of that for like whatever amount, I don't remember." And I sold the rest of it to him, and I had all this money. I'm like, damn, that was fucking easy. Didn't have to work for it. Like, people just gave me money for this stuff, And ever since then, I just was always slanging something. Kind of started, obviously I didn't have the plug, so once it ran out, I wasn't selling it no more, but I kind of like it implanted that in my brain, like you could sell this stuff to people all day long and make money, and it's easy, and started really slanging maybe when I was like 16 or 17, started growing weed a lot, and weed was a little better crowd, I would say, they weren't showing up at your door at fucking 2 a.m. to get a bag, They seemed like they were a little more responsible, a little less drug addict-y, I guess you could say. And, made a good amount doing that. I love doing it. Honestly, like even to this day, like when I first got into recovery, I was still growing and I had to make a choice because I had friends who were addicted to weed and, kind of felt two-faced a little bit, like I'm one foot in recovery, but I'm also still 1 foot selling, and growing. And decided I was like, I have to just give it all up. I'm like, in the back of my head, my hustler mind's like, I got to sell all this equipment. I got to sell these shipping containers, like all the lights, all that stuff, sell it, make money, right? And I was like, no, I'm just gonna give it all away. So I like gave all this stuff away. I probably spent like 30 G's on this stuff. Just gave it all away. Didn't make nothing off of it. I'm like, I don't even want to deal with it. I don't even want to deal with people that are in that life. I'm going to just jump into recovery fully. And that's when I kind of started my journey.
What age was the first time you got locked up?
19.
19? What'd you get busted for?
Assault with a deadly weapon.
What was that like?
Obviously, I heard stories about people being locked up, but, having cousins and friends that were always getting locked up, I was kind of a little confident. They kind of put me up on game on what to do when I get in there and, what to expect, stuff like that. You just got to just stay solid, just kind of stay out of everybody's business, just like do your time, you know what I mean? And once I got in there, I was like, bro, like everybody in here is all the people that I deal with on the streets, Yeah, and everybody in there is trying to come up on something, and just stayed away from drugs, stayed away from gambling, and kind of just kept to my own. I usually always had money, so I feel like it was like kind of easy time for me. If you have a little bit of money coming in every month, and you're able to get yourself some stores, it's a little easier than if you don't have nobody who has your back,
100%. So it was pretty easy for you to get comfortable.
Yeah.
And what led you to prison?
Just at that point in time, I was drinking and fighting and just, thinking I'm, way bigger than I am. I was driving I think at that point I was driving a Jaguar, had money, wasn't working, slanging, and got into a fight with some dude and his wife, and I just got lucky. I caught him and he fell down, and then I started getting on top of him, and then his wife jumped in to, help her husband out, and, gave her a little bit of equal rights type stuff, right? And actually I had caught in 2 assault with a deadly weapon charges on both of them, because I was stomping them out and just I was going overboard. I was, like I said, I was angry all the time, and anytime I got a chance to like get into a fight, I feel like that's where I would take my anger out on, those people. And they definitely didn't have it coming to them, They just said something to me and rubbed me the wrong way, and I'm drunk, so. And, I do apologize to them. They didn't, like I said, they didn't deserve that.
Well, I mean, I remember you were a scrapper back in the day. We had our little incidents together too.
Yeah.
What are some traumatic event? What are some traumatic events that stand out in your life?
Um, hmm. I'd say, 'cause I've seen people being stabbed and being shot as a young kid, and it's kind of a little bit far removed from what I would assume that like a murder be, But the most traumatic thing was, um, I ran away from home, well, just for the night, and I was just smoking weed on the corner of Washington and Mollison, and there's this like old people home, like a dementia place right there, and it was like late at night, maybe like 12 o'clock at night or something, and there was like an old man standing next to me at the light, and I'm just like kicking it on the block on the corner, just smoking weed, and he's just like mumbling gibberish, whatever, and he's telling me, he's like kind of telling me, he's just saying he wants to die, stuff like that, like suicidal type stuff, and I seen a car coming, and he just steps out right in front of it and just gets plowed, boom, and I just get blood splattered. And the speed limit there I think was 50 or 55, so he gets hit, boom, and then the dude turns around and runs him over again, and like he's like going underneath the car, and then I'm like still kind of in shock, like, what the fuck did that just really happen? It felt like a Final Destination movie because it happened just like a foot or two from me. So I go out, and I always thought I was evil, but I not all the way evil at that point because I tried helping him. I was trying to pull him, and the guy comes around again and to run him over again, and I just like kind of jump back, goes underneath the car again, and then the dude takes off. And it was just like weird. I don't know who the guy was, and people in the neighborhood said that it was his son, but I never heard anything from like my parents or whatever. And just seeing like an old 80-year-old man with like multiple compound fractures, like when he was trying to like move, his bone was just sticking out. I've never seen anything so white before, like the inside of a bone. And he was like trying to walk. I'm trying to tell him like, chill, bro. Like he's trying to, I don't know, he was trying to get more into the street, and I'm trying to pull him onto the sidewalk, and yeah, that shit, like seeing it so close, and like I said, seeing his body so mangled up, I was like, whoa, dude, like that's way like like insane, It's probably like 11 or 12. And my mom, she barely spoke any English, and she was very kind of like leave it up to God, like, type, like let's pray about it. But at the time, like, I mean, looking back, I'm like, I for sure probably needed therapy after that. And, they just gave me like bread for the shock. They're like, don't let him drink water, like drink bread or eat bread. They're like, don't let him drink no water, just eat bread type, And I was like, I just saw this guy just like murdered right in front of me, and like in a worst way possible, like being run over multiple times. Like, I don't know, I felt like maybe I needed therapy for that or something. Yeah, it's a pretty traumatic event that like sticks out in my mind.
She's like old school.
Yeah.
That reminds me, are you open to talking about like you becoming a Muslim when you were in prison, and then like your transformation process on that?
Yeah. I had a cellie that was from LA, and he was Muslim, and the way he carried himself just was way different. A lot of it's kind of like looked down upon, I would say. I feel like we kind of were going against the grain a bit, and people were like kind of look at us. They never said anything to us, obviously not to our face or nothing, but like I could see the way that they would look at us when we pull out our prayer mats and pray. And we weren't eating pork, and like during Ramadan we would fast, all day. And I just like it's very similar. It was really easy to convert because it was very similar to Christian principles, as where you pray to God, you just like the way that they have a lot of strong family values. They're really big on family. But when I got out, and got into recovery and ran into you. I saw also the same kind of like light that I saw in my homie. I saw it in you too. I was like, man, like this fool, this whole aura is completely 180. When before you were kind of like willing to rob anybody real quick, willing to fight anybody, willing to freaking do whatever it fucking took to get what you needed to get, to like this person who was like helping all these people out and guiding them through life in general, and just by that alone, I mean, you saw the way I showed up. I had a full turban on, and I saw you, and I was like, I remember you inviting me to church for like a solid year or so, and I never went. And then eventually one day you just told me, like, you're going to church tomorrow, bro. And I was like, all right, I'll go. And I felt so welcome. It was way different than the churches I grew up with, where since I was the bad kid, I was treated way differently. And going with you guys, going as an adult, it was a lot different. It didn't feel forced at all. Because before that, the last place I wanted to do is be at church when I wanted to be getting high with my homies and drinking on the block. I was going to church because I wanted to go, like, check it out. And the energy, and like, as soon as I walked in, like, got goosebumps, right? And I was like, dude, this is the church. I like this, And just slowly started going more and more. And like I said, they're very similar. So I'm completely different now, where I respect everybody's religious views, and respect everybody's political choices, everybody's whatever, dude. If that makes you happy, like, I'm cool, man. You're my friend, and if it's making you happy, then I'm happy that you're happy, type,
Yeah, I remember you talking to me, after going to church with us a few times, and you were like, basically like talking about like the Holy Spirit, like just like the feeling that you were getting was like not like anything before,
Yeah, 100%.
What are you doing today to make a difference in your life?
Today I'm just being a productive member of society. I work, I take care of my kid. I'm a pacifist now, so whatever the situation, I try to de-escalate, when prior I would try to escalate the situation into a fight because that's what I wanted, And now I feel like I'm super chill. Like before, like I was so angry, and letting everything go that's out of my control and just like leaving it up to God has just calmed me down so much. Where I'm like, okay, this situation is happening, and it would make me get so angry where I do something, act out in a physical way. Now I just kind of leave it up to God. I'm like, God knows best. He's gonna, whatever path he puts me on, that's the path I'm gonna take. And I'm literally here because of all the things that happened to me in the past. So it's easy to look at it and be like, not get angry about what happened to me. I'm like, I'm not a victim. Like, that stuff happened, and got me to this point right here where I'm at, sitting in this chair getting interviewed.
And I appreciate it. No, I'm glad to have you a long time. And I've watched the transformation. I mean, your demeanor today, comparison to back when we were running amok together.
Mm-hmm.
Although it was only a short period of time when me and you were kicking in, how you carry yourself today is a lot more calm. You don't really have that I don't give a fuck attitude, And I've watched a big transformation with you, and it's pretty rad. And you have your kid, and you're always bringing your kid around.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a beautiful thing to see, Doug. What are some of the goals that you have now that you're sober?
Just I guess it would be to buy a house. That's like my next step. I got blessed, man. I got this job. My homie got me a job at the shop, and I was kind of like the shop guy, the guy who cleans the shop, basically. I had no resume. I couldn't put no references on there. I was on probation in 2 different counties, in rehab and at DUI school. And when I went and saw the the manager, I just was honest with him, man, because of the programs showed me that if you're just honest, that was supposed to be for you, then it's going to work out. So I just told the manager, like, hey, man, I'm literally still technically going to court for this other case, for another assault case that I had caught. And I'm going to be on probation in 2 counties. I am in rehab right now and DUI school. And I don't have a car, and I'm like low-key kind of like, not homeless, but I'm staying all over the place. And they gave me a freaking chance. And just because, I work in manufacturing stuff for like the roofing industry, like, Costco's and Walmart's and stuff like that. And just by simple virtue of being in the program, like I just shined really good at that job. There's a lot of alcoholism in blue collar work. A lot of people are alcoholics, and rose really quickly. And they made me a foreman within a year and a half. Like my goal when I was praying to God, like, please let me be an assistant manager. That would give me a good little bump in my pay, and I feel like I kind of deserved that, and God was like, I got you. I'm gonna make you the foreman. And they offered me that position, and took it, and like things have just been progressing so quickly. Like I changed. I feel like the last foreman was struggling with alcoholism, and he was a cool guy, but the shop kind of like got a little bit crazy. People were smoking weed in the shop, drinking at work type stuff. And me being a recovering addict who's on probation and rehab, it's like so difficult. I'm like, man, I have to deal with that stuff out there. And when I go to rehab, I have to deal with it there. And now I have to go to work and deal with it here too. I just stayed strong. And just like my work ethic, man, I just was like, all right, I'm just honest about everything. A lot of people, they would make something fucked up and they'd do everything they could to try to hide the fact that they made a mistake or they fucked up this order or whatever. I remember the first time I fucked something up, the owner was super heated about it. He's like, who the fuck made this? Like, they fucked it up. I was like, oh, I did. He's like, he just was like surprised, like, what the fuck? He just admitted to it. I'm like, yeah, like I did. And like, can you show me where I messed up so I could learn? And he's like, all right. And then he shows me, and I think he saw something. I mean, they told me that they had big plans for me because I've never been late to work. Only times I haven't gone to work is when I had COVID or something. And that was everything that I learned from being in the program, just from hearing people who changed their lives around and became productive members of society. Going to work every day is like something we all have to do. I was just so used to selling, waking up at noon, just jumping on my phone a couple times. And like, not gonna lie, like the first time I got my paycheck, I saw how small it was. I was getting paid minimum wage, right? And plus I have to miss a lot of days because of court and have to leave early for rehab, just stuff like that, And I saw how small it was. I was like, dude, like I could get this money right here and flip it so fast. Like my cousin's selling right now. He'll literally just front me actually, but if I come with money, he'll give me even more. And just thinking like I could have made that amount of money in like a phone call, just sitting at home doing nothing. And I was like, nope, that's like my addiction right there, trying to rope me back into that life. And, I already have sales charges, so it's real quick for somebody like me to get pulled over and get searched, like they look at your history, they're like.
What's the atmosphere of the shop like now? Because you're pretty much running the shop.
Yeah, no, I literally run the shop, and it's so different. I've had to put some rules down and just let everybody know, like, hey, everybody, I'm gonna change things in the shop. I want everybody in here to get paid more, but at the same time, like, we're not working to a certain level, certain standard. So starting today, like if I catch you smoking weed, like you're getting sent home and you're probably getting fired, and like somebody smoked weed in the bathroom, and the owner, it's crazy. The owner has his own personal bathroom upstairs, but sometimes he'll go into like the workers' bathroom, and he just happened to go in there to take a piss real quick, and they probably never expecting he would use our bathroom. He smelled weed, nobody fessed up to it, so I had to send like everybody that I personally know that smoked weed, like everybody, it was just known because they were just puffing on their pens on their break, you know, like, it's kind of like known. And they all got sent home. But I feel like they're so used to the way that the shop was before, to where now now I'm like putting my foot down, like, hey, like, and I even explained it to him, like, dude, like, half the people that work here are on parole or probation and are in recovery or trying to like not use. And it seems like it's just weed to you guys, but it triggers some people, even me, like, it triggers me. Sometimes I feel like I could still maybe smoke weed. It's not so bad, but
So no one's getting high in the shop.
no, hell no. If I catch them, like I said, they're gonna get fired. Like, and it freaking sucks, because like a lot of people in this world just look at weed. To them, they're not addicts like us. They could just only smoke weed. But for me, like, if I start smoking weed, I'm gonna start drinking, and I'm gonna be like, well, maybe I'll do a little bit of coke now that I'm drinking, and then pretty soon I'm gonna be possibly doing fentanyl. That's what's the opiate of choice today. I have, I believe, 8 years since the last time I did any opiates. But I was just one of those persons that switched from opiates to alcohol and weed.
Right. What's one message that you want to tell someone who's struggling?
That it might seem like it's taking a long time, but things do get better if you just stick to your plan.
Exactly.
Is there anything that you would say to the younger you? I know that's kind of a hard question.
Yeah, I'll just maybe say, tell them, like, it's not your fault that these things happened to you, but you don't have to be so angry about everything. Things are gonna get better. You're gonna make things get better for yourself.
Like, tell me what makes you happy today in your life.
Just going random places like parks or anywhere with my kid. Like, this past weekend, we just went to the El Cajon courthouse, and on a Saturday, I think, and we just went to have lunch right there and just like explore the whole courthouse. And like, I used to fucking hate that courthouse. Like, it was like that's where I would usually go to court, there downtown, but mainly there. And it used to like make me so like anxious and nervous being there, because I'm going there and I'm probably gonna get sentenced, or I'm gonna hear bad news, or I haven't checked in a PO. I'm about to test dirty. It was always just bad news being there. But like now, just like going anywhere with my kid and just exploring, like San Diego, going to LA, exploring up there, just being with him and kind of showing him a different way. I think that was like the biggest thing that got me to get clean, because I was drinking really heavily after my mom passed away. She might have not, actually, she didn't pass away a year ago, bro. She passed away like 2.5 years ago. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Honestly, it was such a traumatic event. It's like, I feel like it was just like last year. But started drinking really heavily after my mom passed away, and caught a case within like a month or so. And oh yeah, I forgot the question. What was the question again?
It was, what makes you happy in life?
Oh,
You kind of veered off.
I know I did. Okay, yeah, just being with my kid, and like I said, just that's where I was going with that. Okay, so like I just want to show him like showing him a different way than how I grew up. Like I saw myself like going down the same exact route that my dad did, you know, being a drug dealer, being an addict probably. I mean, I don't know if he was, but he was for sure doing some kind of drugs because he was selling, and it's hard to not use and sell. And I saw him going through the exact same stuff that I went through. I was always angry because my dad's not there and he's locked up all the time, and just showing him a different, basically breaking those generational curses, chains, or whatever you want to call it. Like that makes me so happy. Like being able to be like, I don't know how to be a father. I've never wanted to have kids, but I'm just kind of like winging it, and it just seems like it's like I'm doing a decent job. I mean, people tell me that I'm a great father and that I'm doing good with them, and I'm just like, man, I just do the opposite of what what I had growing up. Try to give them a better life than I did. So just like doing that like makes me extremely happy. Like seeing him laughing and smiling over like the littlest things. Like even when he just like hugs me and calls me dad, I'm like, dude, I didn't know I wanted this. But that makes me extremely happy.
I think that's a good way to end it, honestly. Yeah. No, thank you for doing this, dude. You already know I love you. I'm a Good night. Yeah, forget it. How we did 1,000.
Thank you for having me, and appreciate you like more than you know, man. Like I look up to you a lot, and you've always supported me. Every time I run into you or see you, it's all love, and I could just genuinely feel it. That you just want to see me do better, and that like drives me to do better, and I strive to be like you. I saw you with your kid, and I was like, man, like I don't have my kid right now, but I'm gonna have him. I'm gonna get him back, and that like motivated me to do that.